Do you often feel tired even after a full night's sleep? Is your back aching, but doctors can't find a clear reason? Or maybe nothing hurts, but it's getting harder to get out of bed in the morning. Sometimes the body speaks when the heart hasn't had a chance to. Today we're going to talk about how loneliness affects the body and go through 5 physical signs you shouldn't ignore. You'll learn how it's connected to your health and what you can do about it right now, without doctors or expensive treatments. It's simple, human, and real. Let's figure it out together. Sometimes it starts with the plate staying full. You tell yourself you're just not hungry tonight, or maybe you'll eat later. But the next thing you know, dinner is untouched and it's already morning. As we get older, it's easy to blame changes in appetite on age or medications, but what many people don't realize is that emotional loneliness can have a real physical impact on how and whether we eat. When we feel isolated, the brain reduces production of certain hormones that help regulate hunger and fullness, like leptin and ghrelin. Some people find themselves eating more than usual, trying to fill an emotional void with food. Others, and this is just as common, lose interest in meals altogether. Your body still needs nourishment, but the motivation to care for yourself just isn't there. And that's when little issues start snowballing. Fatigue, weight loss, trouble focusing, even a weaker immune system. If you've noticed changes in your eating habits, either skipping meals or turning to snacks out of boredom, it may be a signal not just from your stomach, but from your heart. I've worked with older adults for over 2 decades now, and I've seen how often appetite is tied not just to diet, but to emotion. One story that has always stuck with me is Helen, a 72-year-old widow from Eugene, Oregon. Helen lost her husband during the pandemic, and though her children lived nearby, they were busy with work and kids of their own. She told me she'd wake up, have coffee, and then just forget to eat until late in the evening. And even then, she'd only have a piece of toast or a bowl of cereal. Over 2 months, she dropped 15 pounds, and not in a healthy way. What finally raised the alarm was her neighbor, Joyce, who noticed Helen's clothes were hanging off her frame and that she looked tired all the time. When Helen came to see me, she wasn't sick, she was lonely. Another man I remember well, Leonard, 78, from Cedar Rapids, started eating microwave meals 3 times a day after his wife moved into a memory care facility. "What's the point in cooking for one?" he said. His blood pressure went up, his energy plummeted, and he felt disconnected from everything that once gave him pleasure. It wasn't until we introduced a weekly meal-sharing group at the community center that Leonard started to regain a bit of spark. He didn't need gourmet food, he needed a reason to sit at a table again. One of the most practical things I often suggest, and what helped both Helen and Leonard, is building a simple meal rhythm. Nothing fancy, just 3 basic meals a day, even if small, at roughly the same time. It helps regulate your body and signals that you're still showing up for yourself. Even better, try scheduling at least 1 shared meal a week. That could be inviting a neighbor for a Sunday lunch, having coffee with a friend, or joining a church potluck or senior lunch program. Eating becomes more enjoyable and easier to keep up when it's shared. Some of my clients even set phone reminders not just to eat, but to eat with someone. It turns a routine into a ritual, and rituals give structure to the day. The truth is, eating isn't just about calories or nutrition. It's one of the most personal forms of self-respect. Every time you prepare a meal, even a small one, you're sending yourself a message. I still matter. I am still here. That message may feel small at first, but like planting a seed, it grows. So whether it's a cup of soup, a slice of toast, or dinner with a friend, let it count. You're worth sitting down for. Another common sign. You're just not getting up like you used to. You're not in pain, necessarily, but your legs feel heavier, your balance feels a bit off, and it takes more effort just to rise from a chair or climb the stairs. If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you're not alone, and more importantly, it's not just aging. When we feel isolated or emotionally low, we tend to move less. That might sound simple, but over time, this leads to a real drop in muscle strength and coordination. Your body needs regular movement to keep the blood flowing, the joints flexible, and the muscles ready to support you. And when that movement stops, often without us even realizing, our bodies respond by slowing down too. I've seen many older adults who slowly, quietly stopped doing the little things, walking to the mailbox, reaching for the high shelf, bending to pick up something from the floor. And within months, they felt weaker, more tired, and more vulnerable. It's not just about exercise, it's about keeping your connection to daily life active and strong. You deserve to feel sturdy in your own body. One of my patients, Walter, 68, from Madison, Wisconsin, was always an active man. Retired firefighter, tall guy, loved tinkering in his garage. But after both of his sons moved out of state and his wife took on a full-time caregiving role for her mother, Walter spent more and more time alone at home. He told me, at first it felt like a break, and then it just became the norm. His routine shrank to sitting in his recliner, watching TV, and only moving when necessary. When he came to see me 6 months later, he said he'd started tripping over his own feet, even on flat surfaces. What scared him most wasn't the stumble itself, but how slowly he reacted. Another client, Dorothy, 74, from Fort Myers, had stopped going to her water aerobics class because she didn't want to drive alone anymore. She thought skipping a few sessions wouldn't matter, but within a few weeks she noticed she was getting out of breath just walking from one room to another. Both Walter and Dorothy had one thing in common. They weren't sick, they were disconnected, not from their bodies, but from their usual rhythm of life, and that disconnection was quietly eroding their strength. What often helps in cases like this, and I say this gently because I know it takes effort, is creating a very short, very easy morning routine. I usually recommend just 10 minutes a day of slow, intentional movement. That might mean stretching your arms while seated, rotating your ankles, doing gentle shoulder rolls, or even just standing and marching in place while your coffee brews. And if you can, play music you love, something from your younger days, a tune that makes you feel more like you. This turns the routine into something enjoyable and personal. It doesn't need to be a workout. It's a reminder to your body that it still has a job to do. And it helps you mentally prepare for the day with a little bit of rhythm and intention. I like to tell my patients this: your body hasn't given up on you. It's just waiting for a signal that you're still in the game. Like a car that's been in the garage too long, it needs to be started and warmed up. You don't need to run a marathon or join a gym. You just need to show your muscles that you remember them, and they will remember you too. You are not fragile. You are in motion, still. And even a small step taken today is stronger than standing still. Here's another sign that often gets overlooked: a tightness in your chest that has nothing to do with your heart. Many older adults feel a kind of pressure or discomfort in their chest, especially in the evenings. And the first fear, understandably, is that it might be the heart. But what's often missed is that emotional stress, especially from loneliness or silent anxiety, can mimic physical pain. This is what we call a psychosomatic response, when you carry tension without an outlet, when thoughts pile up but aren't shared with anyone. The body finds a way to speak up for you. The chest muscles tighten, your breathing becomes shallow, your shoulders lift without you realizing it, and suddenly you feel that familiar ache or pressure that doctors struggle to explain. If your tests keep coming back clear, but the pain stays, it may be your body saying, you haven't said enough. And if you're not regularly talking to others, or even acknowledging your emotions yourself, this pattern can quietly settle in and start affecting your sleep, your energy, and your sense of well-being. It's not all in your head. It's very real. It just starts in a different place. I remember a patient named Linda, 75 years old, retired librarian from Richmond, Virginia. When she first came to me, she was worried something was seriously wrong with her heart. Every evening around sunset, she said, it felt like a hand was pressing against her chest, sometimes even radiating into her arms. She'd been to 2 cardiologists already. Her EKG, blood pressure, and stress test were all normal. Her heart, physically, was fine. What stood out to me was what she said halfway through our talk. I usually go 3 or 4 days without speaking to anyone at all. No phone calls, no visits, not even small talk at the grocery store. She had lost her husband 6 years prior and had moved to a quieter neighborhood to be closer to her daughter, but her daughter worked long hours and had 3 young kids. Over time, Linda had simply grown used to silence, and that silence, emotional and verbal, had started to speak through her body. I also think of Joe, 69, from Albuquerque. After retiring, he described a similar sensation, heaviness in his chest every Sunday afternoon. It turned out that Sundays used to be his family day. Now they were just empty hours. Once Joe started writing down his feelings each morning and making small efforts to call his brother twice a week, those chest symptoms began to fade. The connection wasn't instant, but the release of holding everything in was enough to change his body's response. What often helps in situations like this is something very simple. Start a daily emotion journal. It doesn't have to be anything, poetic or long. Just write down once a day what you felt, even if the answer is nothing much. Note whether you spoke to anyone, even briefly. Was there a phone call, a smile, a memory that made you feel something? Over time, the goal isn't just to track symptoms, it's to become more emotionally present and aware. If the pages stay empty, that's a signal too, a kind and quiet one, that your inner world needs a little more company. This small habit reconnects you with your feelings and gives your body permission to stop carrying the whole load alone. Your heart is more than a muscle, it's a messenger, and if it's hurting in the quiet moments, it may be because it's trying to remind you of what it needs: connection, care, and expression. Even if the pain doesn't vanish overnight, putting your feelings into words, even on paper, can loosen what's been held too tightly. You don't need to fix everything, just give your heart a way to speak, and it might finally stop shouting. One of the quietest signs of emotional strain is when sleep just stops working like it used to. You go to bed tired, but your mind won't settle. Or you fall asleep, but find yourself wide awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is just part of aging. I hear this a lot, and it's important to say, poor sleep isn't always about the body. Often, it starts with loneliness. When we go through the day without meaningful interaction, our brain keeps cycling through thoughts and worries, even when the lights go out. That emotional silence can lead to a physical stress response. Your cortisol, the hormone linked to alertness, may stay elevated late into the night, and the deeper the feeling of isolation, the harder it becomes to turn off that inner noise. Sleep is supposed to be a natural rhythm, but when we feel disconnected from others, the rhythm breaks, and it can leave us exhausted, foggy, and vulnerable to other health problems like blood pressure spikes, memory lapses, and mood changes. If you've noticed your sleep becoming shallow or broken, it may be more than restlessness. It may be your mind asking for company. I remember George well, 70 years old, from Peoria, Illinois. He had just retired after working as a mail carrier for over 40 years, and while he looked forward to rest, the structure of his day was suddenly gone. He came to me a few months after retirement saying, "I sleep 2 hours, then it's like someone flips a switch in my brain, and I'm wide awake." He tried warm milk, TV, late-night snacks, even walking around the block, but nothing helped. What stood out was how empty his evenings had become. His wife had passed 2 years earlier, and his children lived out of state. Most days, he didn't speak to anyone past 6 p.m. When I asked if he ever spoke out loud before bed, not to anyone, just to himself, he looked surprised. "No," he said, "why would I?" Another story that comes to mind is Teresa, 73, from Portland. She lived alone and often scrolled through her phone at night, but never actually called anyone. Her sleep was patchy for years, and she assumed it was just menopause. When we talked more deeply, it turned out her real struggle was the feeling that no one heard her anymore. We tried a simple method, reading a page of a book out loud before bed. Within 2 weeks, her sleep deepened, and more importantly, she said she felt less invisible. Just the act of hearing her own voice, steady, present, alive, reminded her that she still mattered, even if no one else was around. What often helps, especially when sleep is being disrupted by emotional undercurrents, is creating a short, calming bedtime ritual that involves your own voice. One of the easiest and surprisingly effective ways is to read aloud for just 5 minutes before bed, a poem, a newspaper article, even a passage from a favorite book. When we read out loud, we stimulate the vagus nerve, which tells the body it's safe to relax. The sound of your voice, especially at a calm pace, signals your brain to shift out of stress mode and into rest. This isn't about fixing insomnia in one night. It's about slowly rebuilding your inner sense of comfort and connection. The voice, even your own, becomes an anchor. Sleep isn't something you earn. It's something you're allowed to receive. Like a gift that waits for you when you're ready to let go of the day. If it's been difficult lately, you're not alone, and you're not broken. You just might need a softer landing, a few pages read aloud, a moment of your own company. Even a whisper can change the rhythm of the night. You deserve peaceful rest, not just because it's healthy, but because you are still here, and your body deserves to feel safe again. One more sign that often flies under the radar: you're getting sick more often than you used to. You catch colds back to back, or your body just seems slower to bounce back from minor infections. Maybe you've noticed that a simple sore throat lingers for a week or 2 now, or that you've had more shingles outbreaks or skin irritations lately. What most people don't realize is that emotional isolation can directly affect the immune system. When you feel disconnected or forgotten, your body shifts into what we call a low-level stress state, and that state keeps your defenses down. You may not feel stressed in the usual sense, but your immune cells do. There's solid research showing that people who feel socially isolated tend to have higher inflammation markers and lower virus-fighting activity. It's as if the body quietly gives up some of its armor when it thinks no one is watching. So, if you've been getting sick more than usual, or if small health issues are stacking up, it might be time to look not just at your supplements or diet, but at your social rhythm. The immune system listens to more than just what we eat. It listens to how we live. I think often of Evelyn, 66, from Buffalo, New York. She came to see me because she'd had 5 colds in 4 months, and every time she recovered, another would start. She didn't have any underlying conditions that would normally cause this, and her blood work looked normal. When I asked about her daily life, she explained that after retiring and selling the family home, she moved into a quiet apartment complex. Her daughter lived nearby, but was raising young kids and working full-time. Evelyn described her weeks as quiet, too quiet. No friends in the building, no regular outings, and most days she didn't even open the blinds. After some gentle nudging, she decided to try something different. She joined a local Nordic walking group that met every Tuesday morning at the park. At first, she just showed up and listened, didn't say much. But after a few weeks, she started talking to Marcia, a retired nurse, then to Frank, who used to work in city planning. Slowly, Evelyn began looking forward to Tuesday mornings. And within a month, something shifted. She hadn't had a single cold. She said to me, "I think my body forgot what it was like to be around people." And she was right, because the immune system, like the heart, thrives on connection. What often helps, and I say this kindly and with full respect to where you are right now, is finding even one small reason to leave the house each week and be around other people. It doesn't need to be intense or deeply personal. You don't have to bare your soul in a group, but simply being in the room with others can start to reawaken your immune strength. Try joining a chess club, a music circle, a community, walking group, or even just attending the same senior coffee hour every Thursday. What matters isn't the activity, it's the signal your body receives. I belong here. I'm still part of the world. That signal turns down the silent stress and gives your immune system space to recover and respond. Your immune system isn't just a set of white blood cells, it's a reflection of how supported you feel in your life. It doesn't need perfection. It needs signals of safety, warmth, and presence. And those signals often start with something as small as a shared conversation or a nod from across the room. Give your body that reminder. Even a little human warmth can go a long way in protecting your health. You don't have to do it all. You just have to show up and let your body do the rest. If you recognized yourself in even one of these signs, this is not a reason for shame. It's a reason to pause and remind yourself. You deserve care, even if you haven't asked for it in a long time. Tell us in the comments which sign felt familiar to you, or to someone you care about. We read every message, and your story might help someone else feel less alone. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell to get simple daily tips that support your health and spirit. And please remember this, you are not alone. You are stronger than you think, and life keeps going if you're still holding its hand.